Welcome along once again to the Cardiff City phone-in. A pretty good panel tonight, I think. Al Worth is with us with a really fine background, the best background image on the show for a number of years, actually. I think my favourite there. Bluebirds 3, Swansea 0. Yeah.
Good evening.
And Steve Wiggy Wiggins, welcome back on. Good to have you back on, Steve. Looking happy, which is nice to see. And Paul Mohammed. Yeah, so it's a good lineup. And quite a knowledgeable lineup, I think. So we'll go firstly to I'll go to you first, Al, and I want to come back to you about something else that we talked about just before we went on air as well. But eight matches unbeaten now in league and cup, and so that's great. Everyone seems to be that little bit more confident. First half was fairly poor on the weekend. And then we had a minute and a half of goldenness, with those 2 goals flying in. And then we hung on to it. So it was kind of, I thought it was a gutsy, brave, massive win, vital win. Al, was that kind of how you read it?
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, if Ashford had put in that chance just after as well, we'd plain sailing. I think perhaps even a month or so ago, we'd have said, we were sat there, even when Derby scored, we were like, oh, do you know what? Same old here, like Watford did, It's going to be a late equaliser. But I think possibly they're showing a little bit more strength and fortitude now, aren't they? And being able to hang on in the way that they did. Fantastic. It then does make you think some of the games where we lost very, very late equalisers, I don't think we played any worse than we're playing now. It was just
you're right.
Going for us. And you kind of look, we'd have been sort of mid-table. No use crying over it now, I suppose. But things just seem to be going a little bit our way. Some of the other results going our way as well. I don't want to speak too soon, obviously, because this is
big match tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's other teams. I'm not going to say who, but other teams have been dragged in, aren't they?
Yeah, so there is a team. I can't remember. It's someplace. It's not that far away from here. I don't think actually. Who seem to be in nosedive, But the name escapes me. But there might be a clue behind you. I'm not quite sure.
There we go.
So Steve, it was a bit of a relief though, wasn't it? That second half, because we sort of suddenly came alive. And I suppose the most important change, we've remembered how to score goals, because the second one in particular was probably one of the best work goals we've had at home all season, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a football goal, Steve, wasn't it? It was great to see. I said to my son, sat alongside me, it's funny how football can change in just a blink of an eye with just those couple of minutes, and we were totally on top. And I thought, like you said, when Ashford missed a chance, and well, to be honest, it should and could have been 3 or 4. It should have been more comfortable than it was, shouldn't it? But it was great just to dog out the victory, Steve. Here's my question for you, though, because the first half, as we said, was a bit of a drab affair all round. I mean, Derby were on top. Let's give them a little bit of credit first half. But do you think we're starting with our strongest side? Personally, I would have started with El Ghazi after what he did at Millwall. But is he fit enough to do that? Yeah, I don't know. Just putting that out there. That's all.
I think that's a good point, Steve, because I was just going to say, to respond to that, to add to what you're saying, I wonder if he's our new super sub, actually.
David Fairclough, too.
Yeah.
For the more mature listener. Yeah. No, but he did. He turned the game, didn't he? And the same at Millwall, really, Steve. When he came on at Millwall, I mean, and to nick a point there was a real feather in our cap, wasn't it? Really, because we don't normally do things like that. So, but I just felt that off the back of that game at Millwall, perhaps he warranted a start, but perhaps he's not fit enough. I don't know, but it was great to get 3 points, wasn't it? At the end of the day, So. Yeah.
Well, it was absolutely vital, I think. Mo, I thought Derby were particularly poor, actually. They looked like me, very much like candidates to go down. And when that first goal went in, and then we scored again, we hadn't hardly even stopped celebrating. I thought it'd be good. They've gone now, I mean, they looked pretty poor, but it was literally, it was a proper 6-pointer, wasn't it, that one?
For sure, yeah. And we had to win it. So we had to win it on Saturday, didn't we, Paul? So
sorry.
well,
Go
that
ahead,
derby
sorry.
was bigger than the other derby to me, because the finish that week was 7 points was huge, especially against a side who are our direct rival down the bottom. And let's be honest. In the first half, a good side would have probably been 2-0 up, because I thought they were bright. They did okay, but they just didn't have any quality in the final third. In the guy with the ponytail looked useful. I think he was the one who scored in the second half. But apart from that, they didn't really have a lot going for them up front. Probably the same as us in the first half. We were very, very poor, but we stayed in the game, and that's all you can do. We didn't go behind, which we may have done weeks and weeks and weeks ago, and then we probably would have caved in. And then, in fairness, the second half, the El Ghazi substitution changed the game. And what I liked about that goal was we moved the ball quickly, which is we won the ball high up in our own half, and we moved it quickly, 2, 3, 4 passes, and it was in the net. And it was just one of those goals that when we play like that, I think we're much better when we just move the ball quickly. Across from, I think Ashford won it, rolls Ashford, wasn't it? Robinson to El Ghazi. And the goal, it was just a good goal, but moved at pace. And El Ghazi's such a clever player. You can see the way he was waiting for the pass. And in fairness, Robinson made the pass really well. Perfect weight. He didn't have to control it. He just passed it into the net, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was a great goal. And it was the killer goal, because I couldn't see them scoring 2 after that. I know they got one, but they just weren't good enough. And they're on a terrible run, aren't they, at Derby? So
they've lost the games, haven't they?
That was just such a big win to round the week off with 7 points. Was huge, and it just gives us a little gap now and keeps that run going. More importantly, so
and the thing with I thought we'd batter Derby once we went 2 up. 2 in a minute. Here we go. We're going to get 3, 4, 5 here, But then we lost the ball in midfield, and a certain Ebu Adams ran about 700 yards with the ball and just set up a goal. And it was a little bit like some of the goals we conceded recently, Paul. Kind of fairly soft goal, really, just simple cross in the middle and bang back in the net. Yeah,
it was a good finish, man. He found space, didn't he? He was quite a clever player. That
needs a haircut, though, doesn't he?
That 15. I think have they only just signed him? I think this window. He's a new signing, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, he looked useful, in fairness, and it was a good finish. But after that, we should have gone on to score 3 or 4. Yeah, probably the killer. Ashford had a chance, didn't he? El Ghazi was a good save, but it doesn't matter, because all we had to do was win that game. It was just all about winning.
And 8 minutes of injury time as well.
Yeah, which probably
which felt like 8 hours.
They get a bit more tense, but I just didn't see them. I thought we would score again. I just thought once we got on top, we did look quite a good side, and it didn't matter. We just had to. It was all about winning, because the problem is we got Leeds next week, then FA Cup, so there's a gap, isn't there, until the next? I think Portsmouth away then, isn't it? The next
massive game,
and then Bristol City home. So Plymouth away. But then it's a big month, isn't it? I mean, February's those 3 games after the FA Cup could be pivotal.
Exactly, I agree with you totally.
I think I see the Leeds game as a little bit of a free hit. Really, no one's expecting us to go up there and get anything. I think the pressure's off a little bit. We go up there. I know we're going to shut up shop, but we come away with a defeat. I think that's what we're expecting. The FA Cup at Stoke, he'll rest players, won't he? But then those 3 games that you've mentioned, Paul, they're huge, aren't they? And if we could pick up 7 out of those, you're thinking okay. But Friday night, Hull won at Sheffield United. I mean, the Championship is just crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. And you know what's going to happen next. Derby aren't going to carry on this run forever. They'll do what we've done, and they'll just pick up, and then back and forth. There's plenty more. What's it? 17 games left at the moment. I know people were talking Saturday after, saying, "Oh, we're okay now."
Yeah,
nowhere near okay. But I think we can all talk positively now, and bringing in new signings adds to that, especially when you see them running in the way that the new centre forward has done so far. That's what you want to see.
So we're kind of 2/3 pretty well through the season, aren't we? Really, as of this weekend. So I'll a couple for you. First one is, can you remember years ago, the first time I heard this one, and the lad who scored for Derby on the weekend, they were all singing "Get Your Hair Cut," but I thought they missed an opportunity there. Do you remember the first lad they said, "You got a pineapple in your hair"? Do you remember that one?
Jason Lee, Nottingham Forest.
There we go. That's the man. Yeah. Where was that chant? Do you know?
Well, they used to do it on Skinner and Badil, wasn't it? Skinner and Badil used to repeat it all the time. I don't think they get away with it. I don't think
it's just a quick one. You know, you got a pineapple on your head. It's brilliant. You know, but there we are. Let me just ask you this, Al. Put this comment up for you. Want just get your response to this. Yeah. Martin Ryan, who always comes up with really good points and comments. Actually, Willock. This is an interesting point because. Actually, there's a point coming off this I'll come back to. But Willock wasn't helped by having a right-footed player behind him. He seems to be a very inconsistent player at the moment because obviously Perry Ng stepped in at left back. So he scored that great goal at Millwall, didn't he? But it was like an individual goal. If you compare it to the goal we scored, the El Ghazi goal, it was like an individual goal. He just found the space and finished beautifully. But he's sort of not quite come good yet at all, is he? We're 2/3 of the way through the season.
Interesting you mentioned about Perry Ng. I was with a Derby fan on the weekend and watched it with him. It's great, I think, to get an opposition's view of your players because ours are all a little bit jaundiced, aren't they, the way we think about them. And he said, "My God, that Perry Ng is wasted in defence for you. He's the best player you've got." It's really interesting, you know. You think, well, you know, we don't see him that way. But sometimes, you know, he came forward a couple of times, and you're thinking, well, yeah, you can see why opposition fans rate him.
Good player.
Willock, I think so. And Willock, I think against Millwall, I think he was in danger of being hauled off. I think if he hadn't scored that goal when he did. But you know, he's got that in him, hasn't he? And you know, he's a class player, same as El Ghazi. You know, they're great. They can do that sort of thing. I thought El Ghazi looked strong. You were saying about him being fit. I thought he looked very, very strong. Seems to have a lot of upper body strength, you know, and in comparison to some of the players he comes up against. And of course, if they've been running for 45 or 60 minutes or whatever, you're not going to want to face him, I don't think, as a fullback.
No, that's why I personally think it's a good idea to have him on the bench mostly and bring him on. You know, but he looks fitter. He looks stronger, like you said. He looks really up for it. That goal seemed to mean something to him. And he made a point of it. But the thing I want to come back to on that one was, of course, Joel Begum was ill, I think. Yeah. So Joel was out, Callum O'Dowda was out, Tanner was out, right? So there's our three left backs. So Perry Ng comes in, Ryan Giles goes on the bench. So that makes Jamila Collins our sixth choice left back. So that says a lot about him, doesn't it? I mean, he's you know, I don't want to personalize it, but I'd be amazed if he doesn't leave this week. Would you?
Yeah, he's going, isn't he? I think he's going. I don't know. I don't go. I'm not in the know, but I understand there's been a bit of a falling out. So yeah.
Yeah, I always like that in the know. You know, put ITK after their name, don't they? You know?
In the know, yeah. No, he's not going to be. You know, he's going to have to shift some people off, isn't he? You know, wage bill and balancing the books and so on. And it's glaringly obvious he's going to be one of them, isn't it?
He's clearly not in the manager's plans at all, is he? No. So we'll see on that. Shame really about Collins though, Steve, because when he first came, before he picked up a really horrific injury, he really looked good, didn't he? But it's just not obviously not going to work out, is it?
He did. That was the West Brom game, I think, early season, wasn't it? And after that, he didn't seem to ever. I mean, that was obviously a nasty one. He didn't seem to recoup the standard that he sort of set himself, really, which was a pity. But do we, you know, off the back of that, and all those players you mentioned there, Steve, all missing Saturday, do we still need cover there at left back?
I don't think so. Myself.
No? You got enough there, you reckon?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a priority at all, is it? I mean, when Ollie Tanner's dropped in the left back, I think he's done really, really well. I love to see him on the left anyway, you know, my left-right foot thing. And O'Dowda, you know, he can play left back, and he can push forward from left back, or he can play left wing back. And then if you want to go for an out-and-out left winger, El Ghazi's looks like he's a decent choice. So I think we're fairly okay down. In fact, that leads me on, Steve, because I love the sexism of this new signing. Looks like we're going to sign someone whose surname is basically football is man's work. You know, which is nice to see, you know, but nice bit of sexism in the name. Not quite as good as Dean Windass, but you know, not bad anyway. Are you a little bit surprised seeing us sign in a central midfielder? Because again, that seems to be, you know, an area we're not really, we don't really have paucity of choices there, do we?
It's an interesting one, that, and he's reading. I've only read a little bit about it, but I don't know the chap. But he's a defensive midfielder as well, isn't he? He's not.
Yeah.
He's not like a 10. He's more of a Siopsis or it just makes you wonder whether there's going to be anyone going to be leaving in that department. I don't know. Just putting it up there, but I mean, he's coming from Ajax. He must be half decent, Steve. So
did you used to call him Ajax when you were a kid? When you saw the Ajax kids on their bikes going past, it's Cardiff Ajax. Did you see that?
Ajax, yeah. I thought on Saturday Robertson. I know he had illness in the week. I thought he looked a bit slow on Saturday. I don't know what you all thought. A couple of times he had the ball. He tried to tap and run down the wing, and there was nothing in his legs. But perhaps he's still feeling the effects of his illness, because there's quite a bit of illness in the camp at the moment, isn't there? Like everywhere else. But
like everywhere else. Like
I think some of those youngsters, Steve, Robertson, Turnbull, they're all contracted for a while yet, and they're going to be the future. They're either going to be the future of the team, or if they perform particularly well, we're going to get fees in for them. So I think there's been some sort of transfer strategy there. Buying them young, signing them up for a long time, and as opposed to, we touched on earlier, didn't we, before we came on here, a lot of the more senior players, their contracts are all up. And Paul had mentioned earlier about offers or contract offers. We've got 12, 13 players there that we've got it. And I'd said last week, we'll be waiting to see whether or not we were going to get candidates relegation or not, whether or not we were going to be offered, but whether or not they were going to be offered contracts, I don't know. It's difficult times, isn't it, for the football club?
So what's your take on that, Paul, in terms of from a kind of a business point of view? I suppose it makes sense, doesn't it, to protect your most kind of valuable assets. So we've got something like Callum Robinson, for example, right? Callum Robinson, I think I checked today. I think he's the joint third highest scorer in the Championship, including League and Cup. So he's having an amazing season, really, with a side who isn't doing so well. But I think he's 28 or something, coming up to quite soon. He's out of contract. And if you compare that to some of the youngsters coming through, Paul, I suppose Steve's point about looking after them and maybe getting them on longer contracts. Tanner being an example, being talked about this week, isn't he? Rumours of Leeds and other clubs. If you've got a player like that on a 3 or 4 year contract, then that becomes quite a valuable, saleable asset, doesn't it?
Robinson's 29, so
yeah.
I mean, it's up to him on what he's looking for, really. I think he would be one of the top earners now, because he was signed when he was Premier League, West Brom. He'd be on top wages, but ultimately he's far and ahead our top goal scorer, isn't he? He's our main goal. 6, what's he got? 6 in 6. Is that good timing because he's out of contract and it's January? Yeah, but he's always been a good player, hasn't he? He's been one of our best forward players. He'd be the first name on the sheet every time he's fit. He's a 10, or he's not quite a 9, but he's good enough to play.
Yeah. And on that point,
goal scorer. So
sorry, Paul.
We haven't got many of them.
No, we don't. But I was going to say he's kind of, because he is one of the joint top scorers in the Championship now, and certainly our most dangerous player, really, in terms of goals. So you don't really want to be dropping him, because we need goals. It's great to see us scoring the goals. Can you see a point maybe where maybe Salah might play as kind of the number 9 and Robbo in behind them, so you get goal threat from both?
Looks a bit raw to me, that the new signing. I think he might take time, but perfect to have on the bench, because we haven't really got many other options in that position. Starting, I don't know. Put him on in the FA Cup. Maybe he just looks a bit raw to me. But he's only just turned 23. He's more of a project. They paid quite a lot of money for him.
Yeah. When
you look at the package, not just the transfer fee. So he's an investment, but he's 23. So, and a number 9, it's worth, those type of players, they're worth taking a gamble on. Because if you signed a 23-year-old from the Championship, it would be a lot more money than we paid for him. So you've got to go abroad. That's where the value is. That's what the club are doing now. And in fairness, for all the criticism that the club gets, we signed another striker this January. They paid money for a striker. Not many down the bottom have done that. some of the sides are selling their strikers. So, you've got to give credit where credit's due sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
They're looking at this lone player from Ajax, and I'm told there could be another striker on the way this week. So, yeah, I mean, goals have always been the problem. And I said right at the start of the season, I don't think we solved the box-to-box midfield player or a striker. Robertson is a maybe still in that position to me. Turnbull looked good when he had his little run in the side. He's quite a technical player. I like him.
Yeah.
But he's now out virtually for the rest of the season, back to maybe April. Yeah, so more or less. I mean, but he's on a long-term contract. He looks a good player. So I think this lad they're signing from Ajax, I think that type of player we do need, because in fairness to Rawls and Siopis, their passing ability isn't they run around, they break up play, they're good for what they do, but they're not ultimately creative players, are they?
No.
And we do lack a bit of creativity. That's what I think. I just think from the midfield to the front, we do lack that little bit of killer pass creativity. Where if we get El Ghazi fully fit, because he has struggled with fit, he didn't play, did he, for almost a year?
No, he had a big dispute.
So maybe that's the reason that he's now starting to find his bit looking better. These clever players, they want the ball played in behind Robinson's. We haven't really got that player who can play that pass. So, to me, I think that might be a good sign in this kid from Ajax. So let's see.
So you mentioned Paul mentioned there Joe Rawls in that dialogue, and I thought he's another one who gets an awful lot of stick, Joe Rawls, and he's not Ronaldinho, he's Joe Rawls, but I thought he had a really good game on the weekend, and I thought against Swansea, it clearly means the world to him, and I was quite impressed. He would have been right up there for me. It was difficult to choose a man of the match, honestly, on the weekend. I think he was right up there for me.
I thought him and I noticed he run into the end. I was saying before we come on here, the level of his fitness at his age as well. We think of him more as a veteran, I suppose, don't we? But the level of his fitness is incredible, because he was running at the end in the same way as he was at the beginning, and same as Andy Vinamota. Forget it, right?
He had a good game too.
He ran right at the end. He made a sprint. We were in injury time, and he sprinted up the right hand side. And I was thinking, the engine's on those boys. It was great to see, really, really good. I don't think I've always appreciated Joe Rawls as much as I have then when, backs against the wall. Some people, I think, would perhaps go hiding a little bit. Some players have had criticism. Rawls isn't always the most popular amongst fans. But he's never hidden, has he? He's always come up and he said, right, I'll give it a go. So yeah, I was the same as you. I was really, really impressed with him on Saturday, second half in particular. And
I believe you had a personal moment with him before the game, because your company, first time I think, sponsored the match. And
I was at the oldest mascot there, actually. I've got to say, I got to shake Joe Rawls' hand, and I haven't washed my hand since. So it's been.
Did you say he tapped you on the shoulder? And you look around, it was Joe Rawls.
Yeah, I was just I was a bit starstruck, I think is the word. It never leaves you, to be honest, Steve. It was great, really, really good, really, really good.
And so you told me a little bit about it before, but you didn't realise you were going to be on the pitch. I think you said Damon Searle was your kind of ambassador, I suppose, for the day. So you're on the pitch. Joe Rawls taps you on the window, gives you a high five,
Yeah, I mean, following on what Paul said, credit where it's due, and I've heard people slag off the hospitality and what goes on behind the scenes. But if you've got someone like Damon Searle sort of hosting you for the day, if you like, and he's just a normal bloke, isn't he? You can talk to him about 92, 93, and then you can come right up to present day, and he's giving his opinion. We were just talking City all day, and then he's give you his opinion about the current squad and so on as much as he can. Really, really good host, and I've got to give it to the club. And I'm one of the club's biggest critics, I got to say. But they didn't put a foot wrong on Saturday. Hosting us, we had people from company there. We had family, friends there. And really, really made welcome. It was great. I mean, winning on the back of the Swansea game. I got to say, everyone. Roger Gibbons is the main host, and he was just had a smile from ear to ear the whole day. So it made his job a lot easier than we'd beaten the Jacks last week. you know, and there you go, 7 points.
Nice. The new suite is nice, isn't it? How it's done out.
Yeah.
Al?
Yeah.
The Rico, it's nice.
Yeah, very, very much so.
They've done a good job.
And I think, you know, they do need to attract people in there, because I've spoken with them previously, and the commercial department, when we're not doing well, they just say they can't get anyone in there, and they, you know, they do need the support. But it was full on Saturday, I've got to say. And then I was saying that, Damon, I said to them, well, the Swansea game, I said, you know, are people allowed to go a bit mad in here? And he said, you wouldn't believe what it was like. And then I was kind of thinking,
they were playing loud music. It was like a disco in there after Swansea. It was. I hadn't seen that before. Yeah.
So Al, that's interesting what you're saying about that experience, because you know I don't know what it's like, but it sounds really good. And you said there were no prawn sandwiches involved. No prawns were injured during the day. Is that right?
No prawns were injured. No. Personally, look, I'm in the canton normally, quite high up, so I see the game from a certain level.
Yeah.
We were sort of sat quite close and behind the dugouts, so I see it from a completely different level. All right, and we mentioned before about lack of coaching staff, and we'd said this, hadn't we? A few weeks ago, and didn't seem like there was anyone getting involved. Darren Pearce and Richard Shaw were helping. You could see they were helping Riz an awful lot, and Pearce very much so. You know, they were sending notes on and this, that, and the other. And I never see that normally. I just see from my perspective. And I got to say, they were helping him. He's an inexperienced manager, but he seemed to be taken on board. Something else I was going to say. Sorry, Steve. I meant to say it's from getting the club all together, if you like. You know, Damon Searle was saying at 12 o'clock on match day, Omar Rizza goes up and talks to all the staff working in the grandstand. He has a chat with people. How's it all going? Things like that. He's not aloof, you know. You can't imagine Mick McCarthy doing that sort of thing, can you? He was probably arriving at the ground at 2. So, yeah, and that sort of thing means a lot, I think, to the staff.
And sticking with Omar for the moment, so I'll ask you, Al, first. I'd be quite interested in Steve and Paul's opinion on this as well, really. It's interesting to me how I think it was Reno, actually, and we can call him Reno because he's a footballer, you know, so he's Reno, you know. They all got like silly names and whatever, but he referred to the manager in an interview as Riz.
Yeah.
It just seems odd to me because, you know, you said Mick McCarthy. I mean, Mick McCarthy there's no doubt he would have been gaffer, and he probably would have expected you to, you know, get your little hat going as well, wouldn't he? He's old-fashioned gaffer, isn't he? Is that just a sign of the modern game? Does it seem, you know, he's doing really well? He's doing great. Are they too familiar with the manager? You know.
Look, it works both ways, isn't it? When we were doing badly, I heard people criticizing the whole setup, that he was too friendly with the players. I heard people saying, oh, he's liking their Instagram posts, he's doing this, he's doing the other. Now, when we're doing badly, I get that. When we're doing much better or doing well, everyone then says, oh, that's a sense of togetherness. And they're all mixing it together. But what I got, or what I'm getting at the moment, is there is that sense of togetherness.
Yeah.
Squad, players, teams, your players were out. The players who were injured were there on Saturday. Turnbull was there, O'Dowda was there. They're all celebrating together. And that's what you want, isn't it?
And talking about celebrating, Steve, I think it was third choice keeper Turner had played a starring role in celebrating the Swansea win, didn't he?
With the old corner flag.
All the business going on in the
yeah. That was interesting. Yeah, I don't think some of my Swansea friends took a little bit of exception to that, but there we go. Yeah.
The bit with the flag was great because the FA Cup triangle one as well, wasn't it?
I said he was only playing. On the subject of Omar, football's a very fickle game, isn't it? I mean, you know,
absolutely.
Like Al said there, you know, we were going through a bad patch and everyone looks for all the worst things, and then all of a sudden we turn the corner a little bit, and there seems to, like you said there, Al, there seems to be a lot more togetherness, not only on the pitch but around the club as well. And I'm fortunate enough; I go up in the Rico Arena quite a bit, and I love the view there. Number one, but I think they've got that spot on up there. With it's great to see the likes of Gilo, and I can have a chat with Gary Bell and Jeff and all that. I think it's a really good scene up there, and I didn't know that about Omar. Talking to the staff, Steve, but that's really good. That just shows that he's coming from a ground level, and people appreciate things like that, don't they? I can't imagine them, going back to the 70s, Jimmy Schooler doing the same thing. But, and him having a bit of a nickname. But yeah, I think it's really good. It's nice to see. Really clever.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been Jim or Jimmy or Schools, would it? That's for sure. What do you think, Paul? Any thought on that at all about the relationship between players and the manager? Is it just the way it is in football now, or is there even an issue? I don't know.
Am I back? I think I lost the screen then. Hello?
You still with us now? Are you there, Paul? Yeah, sorry.
I think there is a together. You can tell. You can just, because I sit not far from the dugout, and you can tell. Sometimes you can hear the conversations. But I think it's helped with Darren Person and Richard Shaw, experienced ex-pros. Obviously, no managerial experience, and none of them have between them. But you can tell that the players like Reza. He's a lot. I mean, even when he speaks, you can tell he's quite a likable guy, isn't he? I think he speaks quite well. He's quite honest. He when he first got, then he was in that bad run. He was still quite honest about it, and he's honest now. I think his interviews are quite good. He's active on social media, which isn't a bad thing unless you El Ghazi and you get sacked. You say the wrong things, as long as it's not political or racist, and you stick to football and your job. That's a great way of interacting with fans now, isn't it? The social. I think fans like that. And then the Swansea game was the first time they sang his name, and he obviously lost his dad.
Yeah, he likes that, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he lost his dad, hadn't he? The couple of days.
Yeah, exactly.
And you could tell there was emotion, and he got sent off, didn't he? And I think now the fans have really warmed to him, because I'm sure he would admit that he is a very, very, very lucky person to be in that job. He didn't really deserve to be given the job. He had no credentials to get the job. It was just in place. The club brought him in, so they must have a lot of faith in him. Bullet didn't bring him in. The club appointed him.
Oh,
so
I didn't know.
Yeah, he was brought from outside as Bullet's assistant. He wasn't appointed by Bullet.
all right.
So that tells you that they have faith in him. And he's a very ambitious guy. He's quite an intelligent guy. So now he's been given the chance. All you can do is back him. To me, he shouldn't be there. It's just a symptom of how bad a position we were in. And that contract saga going on over the summer with Bullet, and then we just had a disastrous start, didn't we? First 6 games, 1 point. So we're 6 games behind everybody already. So you've got to look at his record: 23 games, 29 points would comfortably put you mid-table, and that really is without an out-and-out striker. And you could say we're a few players short of a half-decent team now. I think. With the youngsters they're signing, the signings are better. They're signing younger players, Robertson, Darlans. These are all in their early 20s. All of a sudden, the signings are better. We're not signing journeymen. Can go as a loan, so we can get rid of him. The new striker is a signing because he's a youngster. That's worth it. So you can see they're now thinking about what they're doing and doing it. Scouting the markets, doing things properly.
Yeah,
we should have been doing for a long time. And thankfully, kids are coming through the system now, aren't they? And getting in the side. Colwill, Ashford, who to me looks really,
he looks so good. Really.
Well, I just hope we hold on to him, because I'd
love to see that goal going in.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think if he'd have scored that, he might have been on the move this window. No, he actually looks technical. In a technical sense, he looks a player. I mean, he's only played a handful of games. I know you shouldn't get too excited, but he does look like he's got all the attributes to be a top player. Was he 20? But it's good to see the youngsters now from from the local community are coming through the academy and getting in the first team. That is really important for a club like us with a big catchment area. The kids can see that, and they see a pathway, and they see the new academy being built in Llanrumney. You know, the club has got planning for a new training ground. They're building on that already. So the things off the pitch, you know, we got a Premier League UEFA A standard stadium. You know, the things off the pitch are quite good. You know, okay, we looked like we could have been relegated in the last few seasons, and I got to be honest, the way it was going a few weeks ago, I thought we were on our way this season. I did think this was the season where it was just going to catch up with us. I mean, it's still May, but thankfully, I think there are 4 or 5 worse sides than us in this league, even without any more players. So you've got to say that things are not that bad. You know, the club could be run better. There are criticisms. There's plenty of them, of course, and fans always want more. But you can't. There are massive positives off the pitch. But okay, I do accept. At times, the communication could be better. The club could be run in a better way. There are a number of things, but you know, to want. I'm sorry, I always come back to this. To want to call the owner out, to me, is a little bit short-sighted. I don't agree with it. I mean, everybody has an opinion, a right to protest. Got no problem with that whatsoever. You know, vent your feelings. We're all stakeholders. We're all fans. We all have our opinion. But I just think that. Where are the local people to invest in the club? There aren't any. Okay, you know, it's not that easy, is it? Get rid of the owner, right? Okay, then what we do next? It's not that easy. And you know, the club has a negative cash flow. The club doesn't make money, so who's going to fund it? That's not an attractive sell. You know, that's not an investment. Sometimes you think. You know, you'd have to invest with your heart, not your head, really, wouldn't you? And you know, as a fan, maybe, you know, you would if you had the money, but it's not technically. It's not unless we're in the Premier League. It's not really an investment. So I just think we have to take stock. You know, again, stay up this season. But to me, the long-term planning is looking far better than it was. Well, it has been in the past. So that's my little rant over. But yeah.
No, it's a really good rant. And there's been lots of positivity tonight. So we have, you know, remember this, there is some positivity. Yeah. So just to say, Mo, just come back to something you said in the middle of all of that, actually. And you mentioned about you referred to social media, right? You referred to social media. So obviously we know, you know, Mate has had some, you know, the point you made was about using social media. And we talked about Mick McCarthy and Neil Warnock. He wouldn't know how to spell Twitter, would he? That's right. You know, it's just not something that they do. But once you put yourself on social media, unfortunately, once you put yourself on social media, then you know you do leave yourself open to getting responses, and you know, and the world's a fairly nasty place. So it can get quite nasty. So Jakob Mate, he hasn't scored that many goals. I think we signed him as a striker. He had one great run on the weekend, actually. But he really belted it down the wing, actually, and put a really good cross in. You know, he didn't come here because he's a terrible footballer. It may not have worked out the way anyone wanted it to, probably including himself. But what are your actual thoughts on, you know, that kind of receiving that kind of abuse, and the kind of the online nature of that abuse as well, Mo?
That's a nature. That's the problem with the online, isn't it? The abuse is not right, though, is it? It doesn't matter what. You can criticize him as a footballer. You can his performances. You know, if he's not trying, that's a big one. But personal abuse, whether it's and if that's racist or not, or whatever it is, any abuse, you know, other than your performance on the pitch as a footballer at the club, is wrong. And the fact that he had to then go on social media and explain why he didn't clap the fans or do this or do that, you know, that to me that does overstep the line. Okay, he's been underwhelming, I think is fair to say. I thought he'd offer a lot more. I don't think it's for lack of try. I just think it has.
He does try. I think he's a tryer.
He's a wholehearted player. Okay, he's not technically the best. He's a powerful player in the right. You know, he did well for Reading, didn't he? He always did well when he played against us. surprise, surprise, we signed him. Maybe we should go back. I mean, that type of player coming up to, what is he? I don't know how old he is, but he's
pushing 30, is he?
He must be. You know, to sign that type of player now, I don't think we will anymore. I think, you know, like El Ghazi, I think they only gave him 1 year. So that to me is sensible. Yeah, Mate, I think he's out of contract now, isn't he? This season. He's another one of the, you know, and let's be honest, if somebody came in for him, they would, you know, they'd probably shake hands and he'd go, wouldn't he? Same as Collins.
Yeah.
So
well, Collins, I think, definitely. Yeah.
Well, yeah. They're trying to get him, desperately trying to get him out. But yeah.
So let me just whiz around with Steve and Al on that in terms of, you know, the kind of fairly vitriolic, nasty stuff, which he must be, you know, he's obviously upset about it. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it is, but the actual thoughts on that, Steve, kind of online abuse stuff. We talk about mental health and male mental health and stuff, don't we? You know, it's just unhealthy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good, Steve. But as Paul and yourself have said, as soon as you put yourself in the shop window there, you do slightly open the doors a little bit. But to do that to someone, I mean, at the end of the day, he's still a Cardiff City player. He's still a Bluebird. And yes, he hadn't had the best of times. No. When we played Reading, he always seemed to do well against us. And I always remember him playing, because we've played him as a right winger or a striker. I always remember him playing more as just behind the strikers, as a 10 when we played Reading. I don't know, perhaps I'm wrong there, but it is totally wrong to go down that route. I mean, I personally have found social networking. It's been a great avenue for me to connect with people through the job I do. And perhaps, you know, footballers go on there for the same reason, to get a little bit of praise and that. But I suppose, you know, to take it that step further and go personally is a step too far. One step beyond, as Madness said.
Good pop music radio reference, Steve. Nice, yeah. Al, I think I'm thinking about it. Saying, I think Yak is he's French, born in Paris, wasn't he? So, you know, English may not even be his, well, probably isn't his first language. He's been in the UK for a long time. I think he's natural French speaker. I don't know whether that is, you know, in social media, we phrase things badly or whatever. You know, it's just a minefield, though, isn't it? Social media will.
You know, if what he's come out and saying, the way I read it, people have got in touch with him, not even on a public network, which is bad enough. They got in touch with him personally and sent him direct messages. I mean, you've got to be a little bit unhinged to that sort of thing, haven't you? Right? And it doesn't matter who you are. You've got no right to be able to just get in touch with someone and say, you are what I think you are. But I'm going to hide behind this keyboard. You're never going to meet me, but I'm going to tell you that you're a rubbish footballer. Oh, come on. I mean, to me, it's just way, way, way beyond the parameters of being a football fan. And people who do that, I think they're a bit unhinged. I've got no time for them at all. Even saying it anonymously on Twitter or whatever, hidden behind some sort of username. Well, you know, if you've got a set of balls on you, put your name to it. You know, and just say, here we are. This is who I am, and you can have the right to respond. He's got no right to respond on these sort of things. So he had to come out. I'm fully behind him. He had to come out. If these people are going to be anonymous, then he has to come out and put something out there and say, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I got to be honest, it disgusts me that these people call themselves Cardiff City fans and just cowardly, I would say cowardly, get in touch with one of our own players and call him what they think. You know, that's not good enough for me. It's not good enough.
So thank you for that. So moving on to a bit more positivity. It's the positivity show. It's positivity week. I was watching some stuff that the club put together with their social media stuff the other day, and I'm not, you know, I don't mean it it was nothing to do with me at all. Some of them may have even been my ex-students. I don't know, because I know a lot of them work down at the club. But it was so brilliantly done. It was so beautifully produced, and they captured the emotion and the spirit and the kind of ecstasy of that victory so well. So well done to the club on that. But Al, I'm getting on a bit, and I can't quite remember. I think what does it say behind you? What was the scoreline again in the Cardiff Swansea game?
3-0, I think it was, wasn't it?
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm Glad to hear we won. Yeah.
That's a halo above my head, Steve. Actually,
You did right there, Steve, about the production. And it was
Really
it was like about 10-15 minute video of the big game.
Really
But
good.
I noticed Saturday we got in the ground a bit early Saturday, and I noticed there's quite a few guys early doors taking shots of the crowd with separate cameras. But it was really well mixed, and the way they did things, with the blending the commentary over the visual as well. Excellent, really, really good.
I don't know who's been responsible this year for the match program. It's the best we've had in to my mind, the way that they've done it, bringing the old program and then incorporating it with the new. It's the best program I can ever remember as a City fan. Yeah, there we go.
It was the retro one, wasn't it? What a great idea, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but they are.
Colours.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. They're fantastic, aren't they? Because they've got them just so spot, even down to the font and everything. The one Paul just held up then. That was like my formative years, 78, 79. And they've got it all right, haven't they? I mean,
that's lovely.
I don't know who's responsible for that, but they deserve that pat on the back as well.
And the Derby fans would have liked that as well, obviously. Both sets of fans would have liked that. And Al, do you think that's briefly? What's your opinion? Is that good, kind of, in terms of commercially? I think all the fans are going to love this. We'll sell loads of programs, or is it just someone switched on and just doing the right thing?
I've been a massive critic of the club when it's come to the way that behind the scenes we've done this sort of thing. Do you remember we had the young lad on before who was doing the graphics behind the scenes, and he was a Liverpool fan, and he knew nothing about Cardiff. Do you remember we were telling him about Cardiff City, and he was going, "Oh, thanks for that." They've obviously got some
in Cardiff.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I don't know who they are. I've got no idea. But this year, with the Twitter account and social media, where it's like a different beast to what we've been in previous years, I think. And I go as far as to say I think it's actually good. But, it's
excellent. Well, I don't think I can take any more positivity, to be honest. I think we're all positivized out. But
that's interesting. With Nigel Blues going on about Millwall sending Wintle back.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I was thinking on the weekend. That's one thing we are missing is it'd be nice to have a long throw. Remember when? Well, you can go back a bit. We can go for Bobby Woodruff and all that. But even when we have Mozza in the team, and I think Wintle's got Andy Legg. Yeah, I mean it's a weapon. Especially with that new Yusuf in the team now, new centre forward. If you're chasing the game, I always think a long throw is a brilliant weapon to have in the squad. So.
Neil Warner Club.
Interesting.
Yeah, we had a few then. I want to ask Mo a couple of things. I don't know whether you have. Have you heard anything at all, Mo? I don't know about, or is anyone actually on the panel about Omar's appeal? Because he was like around on the weekend, sort of. But do you know we were asking to get it, the 3-match ban thing rescinded, weren't we? Haven't heard anything on that. And secondly, you said earlier on, your gut feeling is you think there might be another striker coming in. So, do you think that strike? Do you think that would be? And you going back to what you said about Salic and saying he's a bit raw. I'm reading between the lines. Would you? This is only. I'm just asking your gut feeling. Is your gut feeling that the striker coming in would be like a striker would be like the main number 9 with Salic as a backup, or would you think it just would give us more options up front, or do you have no idea?
Well, all I know is that one of the I won't name names, but one of the decision makers said to me at the Swansea game that, because it was a bit of a moan about the protest, because they said that we just signed a striker for a package of X amount of million. Because the day before, and he said we've got terms agreed for another one next week, but that was last week, so it didn't. But this is what happens. It usually goes down to the wire in the especially in January, doesn't it? So it's another week, isn't it? Next Monday, you said.
11 p.m. I think it is.
So I just thought maybe it was that kid they were tracking from Peterborough, but I know Peterborough's asking price is way too high. and typical Peterborough, because their chairman is a
Mr.
right.
Fry.
No, yeah. So yeah, Fry's there, but you got that what's his name? McCann, the Irish guy.
Oh yeah.
Younger.
I forget he's on Talk Sport now and again, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's quite an astute business, and in fairness, they do produce quite a few players, don't they, Peterborough? And they do good business. But Jones, is it the wing? He's a winger come striker, isn't he? Got pace. I thought it was him, but I don't know. So maybe that will happen, maybe it won't. But I still think we need a striker who goes straight in the side. That's why. But to sign one of those is not cheap, is it? And whether that's a loan or a signing, the problem is we don't want to go after a journeyman where you give a 3-year contract and then you're back into square one where our record of signing strikers isn't great, is it? So to me, a loan would be very, very, very sensible till the end of the season. Maybe that's what they're looking, unless it was somebody like that Jones or somebody of a decent age that you can sign, who's got a bit of track record, then yes. And that looks like the way they're going, doesn't it? In fairness. And to me, that's very sensible too, because they've lost too much money on players. It's just ridiculous. We could just go back and count the millions and millions of.
But we can't do that because it's a positivity show. So we can't do that. We're not allowed to do that.
So, in fairness, they have learned from their mistakes and they're trying to do it in a different way. So,
but Paul, can I ask you
noticed or unnoticed? I think a lot of that goes unnoticed. I think they have changed their strategy quite a bit.
Well, somebody, we've got less than 10 minutes, but somebody, I don't know, on the transfer committee or whoever it is, they're obviously, I agree with you totally, looking abroad, value for money, right? So somebody's doing something right. But briefly, Paul, were you surprised to see us spending money on bringing in a striker? It's not an insignificant sum, is it?
No, the package is way more than they announced. If he makes all the appeal, the Salek, you mean now?
Yeah.
It's quite a bit of money. They didn't announce it, in fairness. So, but I was told what it was. So,
can you raise your eyebrows for us just to give us a feel for it?
That was in private. But I can understand it because he's 23. He's only just turned 23, and he looks like somebody they can work on. I like his work rate. I like his attitude. From the brief bits we've seen, to me, he looks good. They wanted to sign, he said, a physical player for the championship. You got the first and foremost is you've got to be a little bit physical, haven't you? And to me, he looks like he's got that. His touch was a bit, you could see when he came on Saturday, but these things they can work on. He's only young. He's got loads of time. He's clearly got an eye for goal. He's got the right, as long as he's got the right attitude, desire, which it looks like he has. Then I think they got a prospect there. And he can be used sparingly off the bench, start the odd game, because he's a player we haven't got, isn't he? Simple as that.
I think it's ironic, Ateti was signed, wasn't he, for $500,000. His contract's up now at the end of June, and he was the precise player that I think Salek is. Ateti could have been that player. And I don't think it's sufficient to say, he's just been injured or whatever. He's been a disappointment, and I'd love him. I'd love Ateti to come in and do something. He looks like he'd have the physical presence, but when he plays, he hasn't got it, has he? Just hasn't got it at all.
I think that cup game was maybe a last chance saloon for him. I don't know.
I think we'll let him go. I think he's one of the ones. We're going to have to let some of those whose contracts
are on loan, I reckon.
They're not all going to stay with us, are they? And I think he's going to be one of the ones
to go along with
some of the older players.
But talking about strikers, luckily we got a world-class striker on the panel tonight, Steve Wiggy Wiggins, who was deadly from a yard out. Steve, what's your take on Salah so far?
Yeah, I'm quite impressed. As Paul said earlier, I think he's he's a little bit raw, and he made that header up a middle, which I think he should have scored. But he got back in the box, and let's be honest, he's in the positions that Kanga never got into. So on the brief times that we saw Kanga on the pitch, so he has got a bit more about him already. So he looks a great prospect. It's early days, but yeah, I agree with Paul. Bring him on as a sub, and maybe start him in the cup game at Stoke. And here's another one. Do we really want a cup run? But yeah, he's a good prospect. I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops. I think he's got a lot more about him than a Tete, and
yeah. And also he does an excellent Ayatollah, which is always good, We got a couple of things to talk about before the end of the show. One is there's a really big game tomorrow, of course, Portsmouth Millwall. In fact, Millwall can win that as far as I'm concerned, but a draw would be okay. But it is their game in hand. I think I'm right in saying that. I think they're level with us then. So that's it's a massive match for them, and they're blowing hot and cold because they won like 4-0 and they got battered 5-1. And then of course we got the Leeds, the mighty Leeds away from home, and when they were top of the table, I think they were top of the Premiership when we battled them in the FA Cup. So, what's your thoughts on? Would you firstly briefly tomorrow, Wiggy, you take a draw? I guess would you? Pompey Millwall.
Portsmouth and Millwall, yeah, a draw would be good for us. I mean, with Leeds though, Steve, we've the last few seasons we've done half decent up there, so it's not all doom and gloom. Even under Bullet, I think didn't we draw 2? I mean, we should have beaten them. They scored last minute.
That's right. Yeah, we were ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not all doom and gloom. I hope personally, I hope we have a goal at them because they always get massive crowds up there and there's great support. Let's go up there and try and get a couple of goals, and you never know then. If you get the crowd against them, I think it can work in your favour up there, as we all know. So, I mean, fingers crossed.
You could almost say, in a way, I suppose, the pressure's on them because they're top and they're pushing for the automatic places, but the pressure's also on us because we're fighting to get away. And we also have that, bit of a history against Leeds. Scoreline, Steve?
For Leeds, I think it's going to be 2-2, Steve.
Okay. Bluebirds 3, Swansea 0. I'll just check in there. So, what's your prediction for the weekend? I
never go against City normally, but I'm really impressed with this Leeds side, as I am every time they mess up their promotion every year. But no, I think Leeds will be too strong for us. I've got to say, I think 2 or 3-0. Sorry.
Okay, Mo.
3-1 Leeds.
Okay, so we're not predicting a win, but we do go up there, don't we? With a certain amount of confidence, Steve, based on the 8 games unbeaten, and we start to score goals again, and we can, as you said, I think earlier, we played some lovely football at times in the second half on the weekend, both goals, in particular. So I wouldn't take it for granted, that they're necessarily unbeatable.
What do you feel, Steve? Do you think we can get a point?
I do, yeah. I think we. I don't think we're incapable of getting a point up there. If we look at again the Sheffield United Hull game the other night,
Exactly that. Yeah, I think first goal is very important in a lot of championship games. So I think if we, if you can get that first goal and get the fans, turning against them a little bit, we got half a chance. But obviously, if they score after 2 minutes, like the Millwall did the other night, then we might be in trouble. But let's hope we take the game to them. Who knows with a couple of if there's a couple of other new faces in the team, this kid from Ajax in the midfield, we don't know.
Yeah,
we're on a good run. So.
Hopefully, what Paul's saying, if there's another striker coming in, that would be nice. There's one question I wanted to ask. We haven't. I'll go with it. It might take us a minute or two over. I edit the show for the radio stations afterwards, but that's my problem, not yours. So, Mr. Ramsey being back in training. So, I'll go to you first, Mo, on this one. So, Aaron Ramsey, do you see him breaking back into the team this season? And if so, whose position would he come in for, really?
Yes, I do, if he's fit. Because, again, he's that creative link we don't really have. Colwell's playing there. Yeah, I like Ruben. And I'm glad he's had a run in the side. And he needs to work on his end product. He doesn't score enough goals. And he's got to work on his final ball too. Ramsey is the complete player when he's fit in this league. He hasn't got the legs, but he's got the brain, and he's just a good in that 10 position. Yeah, I mean, even to bring off the bench, he's a top player to have in your squad if he's fit. Unfortunately, he hasn't been fit enough in
No.
the 2 he's been here. So, but yeah, we need him. We need his experience. He's another Joe Rawls type in a different way. He's just an experienced player, and we need those in this run-in.
Okay. So briefly, Steve, people have been saying that they didn't think you'd ever see him back in a City shirt, and he haven't played that much this season. It's time to call it a day, sort of thing. What's your gut feeling on it?
Well, I'm with Paul, Steve, because he's the type of player that he'll score you a goal as well, and goals from midfield are very hard to come by. So if he's fit and if he's able, even if he comes off the bench, he's got that little bit of added craft that we're missing at the moment, aren't we? That little whatever it is, to get in the box, and he might whack that like that goal he whacked in at Leicester, from 30 odd yards or whatever. He could put one of them in,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't rule him out, and it'd be nice to see him part of the coaching staff, though, Steve, as well, I think.
Okay, and finally, Al.
Exactly. So I was going to say the same as Wiggy. To be honest with you, Ramsey's contract's up in June, but I see him as I'd extend that and in a player coach role to assist behind the scenes with his experience and who he's played for. At the top, highest level. He gets it. If he needs to go do his badges and so on, I'd love for him to do his badges at Cardiff City and bring his way all the way through. You don't just let him go. You've got that ability. If someone wants to be here, if we could afford to keep him in whatever capacity, to my mind, I would just keep him there for as long as possible because he's nothing but a great influence at the club.
Just quickly on, I spoke to him last summer at the school, and he said that he wants to get to the World Cup with Wales too. And you think about that, you've got the qualifying campaign coming up. Starts in March, doesn't it? Yeah. So, and it goes into next season. His kids are at the academy, settled back here. He's just a player. Even if it was on a pay-as-you-play on the coaching staff, I think you've got to keep people like, players like that. A local boy who played for the club, you can't. We lose too many of them, and he's too good for that. He's won medals, he's won FA Cups. He's too good a player, too experienced. You've got to keep players like that. I know his injury goes against him, but it is what it is with his injuries, isn't it?
Okay, so we'll call it full time. We have equivalent of 8 minutes injury time there, so we'll call it a time. I'll deal with that. Great show. Thanks a lot. Let's hope by Monday evening next week we're excited with even more incoming. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Oh. Off Amazon.
Thank you for being with us on this Monday evening on Swan Wales, where the time is now on my time. Jake. What? Cheers. Just not a good secret. Tell me. Don't feel like Dad holding up into the shop and shattered the whole spread to hear it. Gee.
Morning, on me.
Someone's in a good mood.
Are you going to come for mine then, seeing as your flash?
Go on in.
Yes, I want to.
Yeah, we'll forget anything else.
No, you kids haven't made any decisions about that. It's ridiculous. I mean, as if she's going to risk a prison stretch for an old witch lesson.
Every avenue needs to be investigated. Like, they say stop looking for new evidence because they're not looking at Lauren.
Yeah, but it wasn't Lauren who chucked a brick through Sonia's window, was it? She was in the house when it happened. I reckon the police are just looking in the wrong places. I mean, Cindy slept with Junior. So
Keep it on down.
let's see what George to one of them. Step up. Oh, I was late.
It's your artist. What do you? Sure, when?
Are the police even looking at the daughters?
It's not still gets to make a decision about Lauren.
I mean, who knows what someone's capable of being embarrassed like that if that's the whole squad. By their own mum. Jeez. What you do then, kids, back to your phone about it.
Wow. You lost lots of registered too.
So take them out to be able to it's pie and mash. That's right.
Nice. Mine's another.
Yes, they said that what's about to properly step up. I haven't mentioned it again.
Very beautiful.
What? Yeah. Right now. That thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to save the market for you, for home. It's our family's future.
I think that's just the way you do it.
Martin.
Languages. It's so underhanded.
Let's see if it works.
Yeah, you're right. Now, also, she was telling me you changed. It's new. That's for me.
In here. Right.
Right. Yes.
You ready? The kids are starving.
Yeah.
And they want you to judge an impressions competition.
Impressions.
You start by
That's very good. Take it up with your ideas.
right. Right.
Yeah.
Come here, let's do a photo.
We fancy a nice big bowl of jelly nickels. Come on, mate. Right, let's get a big bowl of whelks as well. It's funny. Thought you'd gone back to bed. Need your rest.
Can you sleep? I can't stop thinking about the uncut and our confession.
That's just fine. Not the right thing.
I just don't understand it. You know, why would she?
You're home now. It's all that's ever meant.
Please don't know if they're going to charge her or not. Look. What was she like before she left?
So, she's wasting a lot in the first place. No, she doesn't deserve second respect.
Everyone said she thought the truth and now to kill me out. She would never ever leave me to rot in prison. I can't bear the thought of her out there on her own. She made that confession to save me. All right, I know she did. And I'm going to prove she's innocent. And I'm going to work as hard for her as she did for me. Stop, all right?
Stop. You need to be yourself. And I'll tell you.